You alright, guys?
I'm Dan.
And I'm Andy.
Welcome to Game Couch. Alright, so today we're going to be taking a looking at Rockstar's Max Payne 3, the third instalment of the Max Payne series.
Alright, just a quick rundown before we get to any spoilers. Graphics look gorgeous. Sao Paulo in Brazil's really brought to life and lots of detail as well.
Gameplay is really solid, really fun and challenging, but it's never frustrating.
Voice acting's next to perfect, but it always is with a Rockstar game anyway.
The multiplayer feels a little bit tacked on. It's still fun, but it probably could have done without it.
Overall, pretty fun to play, but it's not going to change your life.
Shall we have a look?
Alright, let's go.
So the game kicks off with a pre-menu cutscene where we find Max, who's still voiced by James McCaffrey from the previous two games, indulging himself in a bit of an inner monologue about how he's going to move on and stop mourning over his, let's face it, pretty shitty past. 30 seconds later, though, we discover that he's addicted to both painkillers and alcohol, which is not a very good mix, really.
Max has a bit of a different look to himself in this game than he has in the previous games. He's dirty, he's unshaven, he's clearly in a bit of a bad state. They've still managed to keep the film noir graphic novel style look to it than they had, what had in the previous games as well, but it is done a little bit differently, and we get that through a mixture of speech bubbles, highlighting specific words or phrases, and sort of still graphic novel panels that kind of come onto screen and overlay each other, which it looks quite cool and it looks quite interesting. It's a bit of an original way of doing it, and it doesn't really get distracting. It adds to it more than anything.
We learn pretty quickly that Max and his new friend, and also a newcomer to the series, Raul Passos, voiced by Julian Dean, are working in Sao Paulo, Brazil, as private security for a rich businessman named Rodrigo Bronco, and who's voiced by Frank Rodriguez as well, and in his family. And while they're at a party for plastic surgeons and high-end cops and stuff, these gangsters break in and kidnap both Bronco and his wife Fabiana, who's voiced by Benita Perrier, I think it's pronounced. Anyway, right. And Max, basically, it's the first mission. He gets them both back, but from there on in, it's pretty much downhill for him and the Broncos.
Fabiana becomes a bit of a typical damsel in distress and gets kidnapped kidnapped again after a brutal gun battle in a nightclub. And just after a failed rescue attempt, Rodrigo gets executed in his building by a group of paramilitaries intent on disturbing the ransom exchange. In the process, Max is nearly blown to hell after the office is bombed. But up to now, Max has been acting purely out of loyalty to a paycheck. But from this point on, his reasons for continuing and doing his job become a little bit clouded and a little bit odd and a little bit unnecessary.
Yeah.
He decides to quit drinking, but not stop taking painkillers, shave his head for absolutely no reason whatsoever other than he feels like it, and he goes to get Fabiana back.
When he shaves his head, he honestly looks like he's just hard-boiled his own face and then dipped it in caviar. He looks like a boiled egg. It's stupid.
Boiled egg in a string vest.
Boiled egg in a string vest.
I was going to say as well, do you know how they make a point of letting you know that he's quitting his drinking, but he's not stopping his horrible addiction to painkillers?
Yeah.
Do you reckon you could somehow read the game as being some sort of metaphorical journey through his psyche of how he just goes from battle to try and get over his crippling addiction to painkillers, which he probably started after his wife and kid got horribly murdered in the first game? Or do you reckon it's just shooting shit?
I think it's just shooting shit. I don't think they ever put that much effort into it
It's
at
just
all.
shooting shit in slow-mo, isn't it?
Yeah. So during his search, Max bumps into this local policeman called Wilson De Silva, who tells him that he thinks Victor Branco is somehow connected with these paramilitaries and the local special police force, the UFE, but he doesn't know how. But what he does know is that he'll probably be killed the minute he figures out what's happening. So he sends Max off, who by this point is just acting like an obedient dog with no sense of purpose. He just does what anyone tells him. It's like, Max, go here, Max, do that, and he's like, yeah, okay then.
Is it distracting? Just literally bouncing from part to part for no reason.
Well, yes and no, really. Like, it's kind of just like, at the beginning, you kind of understand, like, yeah, Max he's taking orders because he's doing a job, he's getting paid. But then it's like, he just decides himself to go into the middle of, like, the favela in Sao Paulo, which is like a giant slum. And he's like looking for Fabiana. He's got no idea where he's going to go. So some kid comes over and is like, "Hey, mister, I know where sexy girls are," because he shows him a photo of her. And he just follows him. And he walks straight into an ambush, gets all of his stuff stolen and thrown into a gutter. Because I wouldn't do what he did. I wouldn't be that stupid. Anyway, so after fighting his way through the favela to where Fabian is being held, Max bursts into a hostage situation with all the grace of a dead pheasant to discover that Marcelo and Giovanna are already there. Fabian is executed, and after some more fighting and an entire mission of just fucking about, Marcelo and Giovanna are captured by the very same paramilitaries that killed Rodrigo earlier. However, they now appear to be working with the police, the UFA, but they're supposed to be enemies. They burn Marcelo, and Max escapes with Giovanna after a really silly quick-time event, which involves a machete and the second in command of the paramilitaries. Do you have any idea what the fuck's going on in this game?
No. Anyway, De Silva comes back, sends Max into some building where he finds out the paramilitary guys have been stealing organs, shuts it down. He then goes to the police station, blows the fuck out of that, because he wants to get to the UFA boss. This is where he finds out that they've been selling people to the paramilitary guys so they can harvest the organs. We then find out that Victor has been paying off the UFA to wipe out the gang so he can become a political hero for the next election. I'm reading this shit and I've still got no fucking idea what's going on.
I've played through it 3 times and I still don't know why they're selling organs. I don't get why Victor has all of his brothers and Fabiana killed. And on top of all that, we discover that Max was hired to be the fall guy for what we don't really find out. Why? I don't know. Why not just some random guy off the street? If they're going to be a fall guy, you pick a guy that no one's heard of. Max is quite famous in New York.
But they're in Brazil.
Exactly.
They've had to get somebody from New York to go to Brazil.
It makes no sense at all.
Then again, though, he is the only human alive who can dive in slow motion.
That's true.
That's pretty handy.
Yeah.
The plot's disappointing at best, which is a bit of a shame, especially coming from the first 2 games when you had those kind of trippy moments when you were doing the platforming levels between when you could hear your kid crying in the background.
Yeah.
You know, when he was like meant to be mind breaking a little bit after his wife and his kid had been murdered.
Following the trail of blood.
Yeah, following the trail of blood. But it's like, I mean, even something like Spec Ops, where that's still just a shooter game, and something like this is, but at least some other games have managed to connect with you psychologically or emotionally. Mm-hmm. This just turns into just an action movie, like sort of like a really nothing.
Yeah.
Popcorn. It's a popcorn game. That's kind of what it's became, because it kind of doesn't involve you as much as it should do.
No.
Which is a bit of a shame, really.
I mean, it does just plod along. Like the last few plot points just kind of serve only to string the gun battles together. I mean, I don't mind.
I like diving slow motion through windows that may or may not break when I hit them, and occasionally hitting the odd filing cabinet and fucking up.
So I mean, the thing that bothers us the most is that Max, towards the end, he loses all sense of purpose, and he starts to question himself as much as we question the plot and the motives. I mean, it's as if he wants to cause as much bother as he can and to get people killed because that's his established character. Like, it's as if he's doing it because of that. Like, anybody else would have walked away by now, except maybe Batman.
Aye.
It's like, instead of writing a story to help Max sort of get over his past and redeem himself and have that bit of psychological drama that was in the previous ones, it's like the writers have just chosen to give him more reasons to feel like a dick. So what we end up with, to me, is a plot that could have easily have just been the next GTA story, but instead we get Max along for the ride for no reason other than we needed a Max Payne sequel. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, and I'm one of those people where I don't mind fun games. I don't mind games which are just fun.
Yeah.
But I just think there's something more to games that can affect you in more than just a way of having it fun, where it stops being a game and starts being something a little bit more. And I really want that. I will merit games with shite gameplay and awful graphics just because it's interesting and it's provoked us in a different way.
Yeah.
And games like this, or games like Max Payne, have potential to do that. I mean, it's got the bullet time thing, which was the gimmick from the first ones, but it has part of the story and maybe something that could go a bit further. I get the same with films. Films bother me the most when they have potential, and I think Max Payne had potential,
The
but then didn't use
Expendables
it.
2 had potential. Just had a shit director.
Oh God.
The whole game culminates in a big airport shootout. Victor gets captured and then Max fucks off on holiday. And despite everything we said, the story is carried off in a believable manner. It's got excellent voice acting, but not so excellent cutscene animations. The characters suffer from what I like to call the Rockstar sway.
The Rockstar shuffle.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody else has noticed this, but in cutscenes, every Rockstar game since GTA 4, nobody stops fucking moving. all the time. Even when they're standing still, the shoulders are going, the hands are coming up from nowhere. It's like, it's just really, really irritating when you're watching it because it doesn't look natural. It looks really robotic.
I think it's creepy.
I know the Euphoria engine's really good, but still.
I think it looks creepy. I mean, don't get me wrong. I was about to say, surely it's got to be hard to have animated people, stand still without not looking like it's a still frame. But other games do this. Films do this.
Yeah.
They don't have to make it so like they look like they're constantly bopping along to their iPods. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. It's really irritating.
In the list of the main plot, we get the occasional flashback mission which shows how Max met Passos. And this captures the old-style film noir vibe of the previous games with snowy Hoboken rooftops, dark city streets, the occasional crackdown. But I think this is simply there to please some of the old hardcore Payne fans rather than the really bright, colourful Brazilian setting, which is the setting for the rest of the plot, really. I do have to give Rockstar some credit, though, because the settings are superbly detailed and they look beautiful. And the variety of places and destructible environments is really, really good. There's lots of windows you can kick people through. And for one, I didn't really mind the bright new look. I thought it looked quite good. But I can imagine how people who were expecting it to be a Max Payne game would be a bit annoyed that there's palm trees and there's people walking around in shorts rather than you traipsing up and down snowy back alleys kicking crack dealers in.
And Max wears a shite shirt.
He wears a string vest.
He wears a string vest, but he also wears one of those blue Hawaiian shirts with like flowers and birds and stuff on.
Does he?
Yeah, whereas in the previous games it was always a black leather jacket with his tie. So he looks like an American tourist. My biggest gripe though is Max's monologues. I know if you take away his moody guilt trip, oh I'm so crap type thing, he's like Batman, you take away the character, but he's so fucking morbid, it's not even funny. Like, by the end of the game, after you've shot your way through hundreds and hundreds of gangsters, soldiers, coppers, and then he comes out with lines like, I put our life expectancy at 5 minutes, if we were lucky. It's laughable, because you find yourself thinking, fucking hell, Max, cheer up. You said the same thing 6 missions ago and you're still here, so what makes you think that the next one's going to be any different?
Give yourself some credit. The gameplay itself, however, never really gets boring. Max Payne was the first game to do slow-mo gunplay and kill cams, and the third installment does it better than the rest due to practice and better technology. I love the Max Payne gameplays. I remember from the first two, I really enjoyed them. There's something really fun about leaping through a window with dual SMGs, gunning down an entire room before the slow-mo's even finished. It makes it quite satisfying, and the refined Euphoria engine just makes it all look brilliant. You're watching death animations with people spraying blood out the necks. It's just something quite nice, and you do get the occasional exit wound on the front of the head for some reason where the bullets went in, which just make it look a bit odd.
Yeah. I mean, the best thing about it as well is it's all down to you where you do the dive and how you do the dive, which will probably lead you to fucking up a shitload when the first few times you play through it. Like, you might dive into a window that won't break or jump backwards off a boat into the sea, but that just adds to, like, the game's fun. Like, there's just something, like as you said, satisfying about jumping through the air off a balcony, shooting loads of people in the head, and then realise, shit, I'm going to land head first in the altar wine in a church. Do you know what I mean? It's just really funny. So, because it kind of goes from being super awesome and cool to, like, you look like a bit of a dick. The missions, though, they don't vary that much. There's some real shooter bits included. There's like a bus and a train, but they actually just kind of mix it up a bit when they don't get overused and they're not boring. All the weapons are the usual kind of shit. There's SMGs, rifles, the odd RPG. And they all pack like a really realistic punch. They're all weighty and dangerous, and they've all got individual weapon slide animations and stuff as well. And finally, somebody at Rockstar worked out how to put the same gun in Max's hand during the cutscenes as you were carrying during the gameplay.
Eureka!
The gameplay, though, even on its lowest setting, offers a challenge, and on its highest setting, it's nigh on impossible, but it's never frustrating, and that's the best thing about it.
I blocked out
Overall, Max Payne 3 doesn't really live up to the hype in terms of the plot. It's full of holes, and it misses out all of the surreal elements that it could have had in from the previous ones. But then again, it is just a Rockstar crime shooter. But to be honest as well, I don't really care. I'll more than happily recommend this game simply for the gameplay. I've already done it a couple of times to a couple of friends, and I might get bored of listening to it, but I don't think I'll ever get bored of playing it, really, because it is fun.
Alright, cheers for watching, guys. That was Max Payne 3. Hope you enjoyed it.
If there's anything you want to see us do in the future, or if you want to ask us any questions, feel free to stick it in the comments below or send us a message.
Please subscribe to the channel, check out our Facebook page.
See you later.
See ya.
Ha ha ha!